All right. Well, good day, everyone. Happy New Year from PrimePay to you and your family. Thank you for joining us. My name is Steve Jackson. I'm the Senior Vice President of Strategic Development and Channel Sales here at PrimePay, and we are thrilled, excuse me, that you've taken time out of your busy schedules to sit with us here today in this new year. This is the first broker webinar here from us here in 2016. As many of you know, we have been providing these webinars generally once a month over the last 8 years, and we have tailored these webinars in the past to a lot of different types of topics and subjects that matter to you, the benefits broker. As many of you know, we have focused in and honed in on many subjects such as the Affordable Care Act. I think they've given us a few things to talk about. But it's also been about pre-tax benefit accounts. It's about payroll. It's about HR technology. It's about sales strategies. It's employer challenges. And ultimately, through these webinars, what we are wanting to do is to be able to provide you with information, whether it's technical in nature, legislative, or a sales strategy, that you can immediately go to your clients and apply practical application and communication to them right away. And so we're thrilled to have you. Let's go cover some logistics here before we get started. As most of you know, we do record these webinars. It's no different here today. We will be posting a recording of this webinar to our Broker Concierge YouTube site, our channel there, and that's usually posted within 48 hours or so from that webinar, from the date of the webinar, possibly sooner, just depending on when we're able to get that posted. So look for an email, but also potentially you can go directly to that site and see when that is actually posted. So recording is available to you. We also, as you have noticed, all your phone lines are muted. We normally get a large amount of benefit brokers here on our monthly webinars, so we'll mute those lines. However, we do want to hear from you, and within the GoToMeeting menu bar, there is a question box, and whether you have a comment, a question, as I go through the material here today, I ask that you go ahead and just type in your question. If I'm able, I will answer that during the webinar, but it might be more than likely we will get back to you kind of offline to answer those specific questions then that you have. So we are, again, we are thrilled that you have joined us. As you can see from the topic here today, I even got some snow, at least here if you're here in the Northeast or in the Midwest, we got blanketed with some snow last evening. So, hey, it's you know, for those in the South, I know you don't understand whatsoever, but I thought it was very appropriate for today's webinar. So today's topic is 3 key trends to follow in 2016. Let's go ahead and cover our agenda because, as you know, I do like to cover a lot of content in the time that I have with you. So today's agenda will be clearly the 3 key trends you will want to follow in 2016. I think that you will be very pleased with the information and content that we are going to show you here today in regard to these key trends. Keep in mind that PrimePay, I mean, our main goal and objective is to allow you to increase your business, have success with your client relationships, building stronger relationships with them. And so ultimately, these key trends are here to help drive additional value to you so that you become more strategic with your employers. We also, as a bonus for today, I'd be remiss to not cover some key legislative updates. As you know, during the holiday, kind of right prior to the Christmas holiday, through the new year, there generally is a flurry of activity before Congress adjourns for the year or for the holidays, and so there's 4 important updates that I think you will want to just get additional clarification on. Some you might be very well, you know about it, but we will cover that briefly for each of those 4 because I think there needs to be some clarity here given to you for those items. All right, so I don't know what you guys think about hockey. The great Wayne Gretzky stated that, and you probably have seen this statement from him before. He has been quoted many times, but the quote is this: "A good hockey player plays where the puck is. a great hockey player plays where the puck is going to be, right? So I would say that in many cases you've seen this quote in many different contexts, right? And I want you to think of this here a little bit. Let me just give you an example. So let's say PrimePay, we are introducing a brand new product to the market. Okay, we think it's wonderful. It's beautiful. It does so many good things. It doesn't do the bad things. It's so well priced. I mean, we love it. And we go to market. PrimePay says, hey, we're going to go to market with this product. It's awesome, and we're going to make a ton of money. We're going to help our clients. Beautiful. I mean, that's what we want to do. All right, so we launch that product. And what if employers start saying, we don't really need that product? I mean, it may be nice, priced, yeah, okay, but it's really not something that we need. It's not relieving or resolving a challenge that we're really faced with. And we go to market, and it's completely unsuccessful, right? It's a great product, does a lot of wonderful things, but it doesn't do the things that matter. And so if PrimePay, if we didn't go to our clients and ask our employers what they need, how they need it, what challenge they're being faced with, if we didn't go to the market and determine what their needs are, all we're doing is we're playing where the puck is. We're not playing where the puck is going to be. Now, I didn't play hockey. I played some soccer through college, but you can apply this to so many team sports. You know, it's about position. And I want you to think about your agency. As a benefits broker, as an agency, I want you to think about how you currently deliver your goods, your products, your solution, your offering to your clients. That deliverable, whatever that is creating huge opportunities, right? You're attracting clients, you're not attracting clients, right? Some of you might be in a particular niche. You might differentiate in a certain way. That is fantastic. But with the topic here today, these three key trends, what I want you to think about is what your employer, your prospective client that you may be targeting, they're actually thinking differently, right? They're running a business. They have employees. They have to manage budgets. They're cutting checks. They're receiving revenue. They're invoicing. There's accounting. There's so much that employers are dealing with. And what I want to do today is build a foundation for you here in this coming year to think about these three foundational challenges that employers are telling you. Yeah, that's right. They're telling you. And so let's begin to think about some of these key trends or challenges. So we're gonna dive into these three because I truly believe that you're going to want, as an agency, you're going to want to follow these trends as you head into 2016. And what PrimePay is going to do throughout 2016 is, as we have our webinars each month, we are going to tie in to those webinars these three key trends and ensure that whether it be a technical piece of guidance or legislative or a sales strategy or whatever it may be, we're going to drive solutions that will help you achieve these or overcome or help your employers to overcome these specific trends or challenges. In my reading, as I prepared for the webinar, I ran across an article from Employee Benefit News. I know many of you, look and read, look at updates from EBN. They have some great stuff, and one of their kind of year-end, first of the year types of articles is on employer strategies, the 2016 ABCs of employee benefits. And within this article is all about the employer. It's talking about employer strategies, not necessarily from the benefit broker's perspective. It's really the employer perspective. And in there, I pulled one of the quotes. It says, task your broker with providing hands-on support in the following areas: compliance, communications, analytics, administration, and strategic solutions. Now, as you look at those 5 areas, I am sure that many of you here on the webcast here today would say, well, I do each of those 5 things. Or, wow, I do 2 of those with very comprehensive solutions, but I'm really not touching maybe analytics as much, or as I would like to. But employers are desiring, they're kind of challenged here right now to have additional support. And you as a benefit broker really sit as a trusted advisor in accomplishing a lot of these areas with your clients. I highlighted, 3 in blue, 3 of the main ones that I wanted to kind of pull from that, but compliance. Many of you have told me that you have become the compliance officer for your clients, and that is so true. It is so true, but there's probably a whole lot more that you guys can do there. But administration. There's administration, not even just benefit related, that you could impact, and also just strategic solutions. Folks, it's getting outside of the benefit renewal conversation and having instead a business conversation. So the first item that I want to mention here, the first key trend that I want to touch on, and you might say, well, Steve, from the dawn of time, employers have wanted to control cost, right? I mean, when you think about if you own your own business, you want to drive revenue as hard and high and fast as you can, but you also want to control those costs. So when you think of controlling costs, what first probably comes to mind is the first bullets that I'm showing you there, right? And this was recently from the Kaiser Family Foundation, the 2015 Employer Health Benefits Survey, but it's simply spelled out, right? What are the average premium for single coverage is $62.51. The average premium for family coverage is $17,545. Employers contribute on average between 71% for family and 82% for single, and we've seen about a 27% overall increase in premiums over the last 5 years. Now, so when an employer comes to you and they say, hey, I'm challenged with controlling cost, you immediately think of benefits, right? You immediately go to the premium. You immediately go with the underlying networks providers, the setup of that plan to try to drive and control cost. It's no different than if I sold flowers. I own my own flower shop, and a client comes in, or a business client that I sell to says, man, I have a real key trend and challenge here right now in controlling cost. As a flower shop owner, what am I instantly thinking? Oh, yeah, man, the cost of flowers have increased tremendously from a wholesale retail. I immediately go to the flowers. Well, you, as a benefits broker, immediately go toward the benefit side of the aisle. Now, these numbers, although may be different for small employers versus larger employers, this is an average, okay? When you look at that 27% increase in premiums over the last 5 years, I know many of you will go, well, no, my small employers have seen an average double-digit increase percent every year for the last 5 years, and the number is more like 50 to 100%, type of increases. Correct. Bottom line is, an employer is faced with steep increases in premium cost each and every year. It is fact. And employers are kind of tired. They're growing tiresome of dealing with that increase on a year-by-year basis. So we can't just let that ride, right? But here's what I want you to think about. In that conversation, when the employer is looking at you, just kind of, again, maybe all fired up, or just, they're not satisfied, going, you got to be kidding me that we're having this other increase. Know that there's other factors affecting that business, right, in controlling their cost. And I want you to think about payroll. Can you, as a benefits broker, actually assist an employer with the challenge of their payroll, since that is one of their largest expense items, and they're dealing with labor cost, with labor issues, labor concerns. They have ACA that's now impacting them, so that's maybe impacting their hiring decisions based on benefit enrollment and eligibility, but just ACA in general is really factoring in their minds in regard to variable hour employees, part-time, seasonal. I mean, how should I hire this next wave of employees that I need to do the services needed for me to sell stuff, and make money? So the payroll side is huge in controlling costs, but that employer is still dealing with capital equipment, building leases, and so forth. And so what I want you to think about is when an employer is saying to you controlling cost, they're looking at at the whole business unit, right? Many of the smaller employers that you're working with don't even have an HR manager to begin with. So you're dealing with the owner, a controller, a general manager. They're not an HR, generalist, nor a specialist. And so they're thinking about the entirety of their business, and that's where we want you to begin to think. So what I've done here is, as I think about solutions, as we take this first key trend, we're going to break these down into a standard solution set, and then we're going to look at it from a strategic thinking set. Okay? The standard solutions here that I'm showing are pretty much focused on the benefit side of the aisle. The strategic thinking is getting your agency to think differently with how you drive value to your clients. So the first one that may come to mind, right, when an employer is talking about controlling cost, I mean, there's one of many, but one of the strategies that you would look to discuss to your clients is one surrounding self-funded. Now, clearly, it doesn't meet everyone's needs. If you're really tiny, it's not going to work, generally speaking. But self-funded strategies for medical and ancillary can help reduce the cost for that employer. And you, as an agency, should seek strategies or at least a discussion with the employer. Self-funding techniques might be an avenue that is best, as a best practice or something that could be implemented with that employer. You also, there's fewer of these today, but there's still a lot of grandfathered health plans. You're going to have that discussion with the employer, if they still have one, about how to maintain that. Can we continue to maintain, this particular health plan rather than going into a more heavily ACA mandated health plan, benefit that they now would implement? I also want you to think about, telemedicine. I mean, a standard talk track now for helping reduce cost is telemedicine, or another name that's being used more and more is telehealth. Okay, based on a Ken Research study, telemedicine is expected to grow to over a $39 billion industry with a growth rate of over 30% over the next 3 years. It's a huge increase, and when telemedicine first came out, you guys all know, I mean, it was hit or miss, right? We'd sit here and say, well, they had some access, I don't know if the quality was there, and so forth. But today, wow, telemedicine has flourished. The access to care is available through video, through phone, telephonic, through internet, but also to be able to get quality access to care has greatly improved. And as your employers are adopting high deductible health plans, HSA plans, whatever the case may be, employees and employers alike can save money by utilizing telemedicine versus having that particular expense, or maybe going to go see that specialist or primary care physician and getting hit with a $100 to $200 plus bill through the deductible, billed through the deductible of that plan. Whereas a telemedicine quality care visit might be, $20, $45, or something certainly a lot less. So telemedicine, if you're self-funded, telemedicine might be a very good avenue to go as well. Another area that you probably had discussions with as well is just talking about tiered networks or narrow networks, being able to reduce cost by, discussing more of just a network that is comprised of fewer doctors, practices, hospitals, and so forth. And that may not be totally envious to every participant who liked a particular doctor that is no longer in that network, but they do serve an important purpose, and they do offer adequate coverage for most. So narrow networks might be a way for you to help your employer control cost. Another area, and this is clearly for the larger employers and or those that are self-funded, but you might have employers today that are thinking long-term, that they're saying, look, I am tired of a single to double-digit increase in my premiums from year to year. I've seen it for the last decade. I want it to go away. I want it to be more controllable. And so wellness and disease management programs, that's not necessarily going to affect things today cost right now in 2016, but it's going to have a longer lasting effect looking at a 3 to 5 year period in which maybe those premiums, the increases or lack thereof, maybe they can really reduce the amount of that increase over a 5-year period. And so wellness and disease management programs, while it's debated on all sides of the aisle, whether they're good, bad, they work, they don't work, they are clearly a solution that would help to control cost in the future. And then the last item here is eligibility and enrollment. One of the ways that you can impact your clients in looking at their current situation, determining maybe measurement periods for ACA based on the number of variable hour employees they may have, you might really be able to control some cost as to when employees become eligible and enroll in benefits as to when they come off their benefits. There might be ways for you to work with them from an eligibility and enrollment status. So those are some of the things that I would say as an agency, a benefits broker, maybe some of those are no-duh statements, but those are things that you're actively pursuing as an agency on a month-by-month, year-by-year basis with your clients. It's expected, but I want you to begin to think about some strategic thinking. Okay, and because that employer, although they are talking about controlling their benefit cost and how they're offering and providing that benefit, they're also factoring in a lot of other things as well, because they're, again, thinking as a business unit. So some strategic thinking. More, I would say probably half, at least with the records that I see out there, about half of employers today have or offer an HSA qualified plan. At least, a third more of those employers offer a high deductible health plan of some sort, right? So as premiums have increased, as Kaiser states, 27% on average over the last 5 years, that has put more pressure on the employee and employer greatly. The employer has taken on more of that increase than the employees, but the employees still have their share. And if you as a benefits broker are not explaining the benefits of pre-taxing contributions for premiums or the offer of pre-tax benefit accounts for their employees, you are doing a disservice to the employer, because there's greater satisfaction in the benefits when an employee is participating in a health savings account, for instance. And also, keep in mind that a flexible spending plan, transit and parking, health savings accounts, still today, literally 30-some years later, are still the most effective way for an employee to pay for their out-of-pocket medical expenses, their daycare expenses, transit and parking expenses than any other vehicle that is out there today. The employee is going to save on that 25%, of their taxes, but keep in mind that the employer is going to save on that matching 7.65% of what's being contributed as well. And I'm going to talk about transit and parking here in a little bit, but more and more cities are requiring that employers have transit and parking accounts. You as a benefits broker need to get better educated and have greater understanding in regard to how these accounts actually can have a greater impact, not only for the employee, but for the employer as well. I have received 2 emails just over the last 30 days where employers did not adequately prepare the Section 125 plan documents at all, and they've been pre-taxing premiums and contributions for a long time. So it is still being done. Still have that conversation with your clients. Another big one in regard to strategic thinking, and I think this is a little bit more regionally based, but many of you, certainly in the Northeast, certainly in the Midwest, certainly in a lot of other areas, have utilized HRAs as part of their strategic plan design process. There are other regions like California and others who maybe in the past have not moved in this direction, but certain procedures and legislative items have now been lifted in which HRAs can be used more with greater freedom and flexibility with health plans there in the West. And so HRAs, what's unique about HRAs is that they're extremely flexible. And I don't want you to think of HRAs as really just that basic, plain vanilla, type of a pre-tax benefit account that can be used in conjunction with a health plan that you're offering, for that employer. Really think outside the box. There are creative plan designs like percentage split designs and post-HSA deductible plan designs that can greatly enhance not only the cost and reducing costs for the employer, but also enhancing the benefit for the participant, for the employee. So these are items that you do not want to forget, that you do not want to forget to discuss with your clients. The last two items that I want to touch on here in regard to strategic thinking is to also think about that labor component. You sit in a wonderful position to have greater conversations about their hiring practices, diving into their employee handbooks and just determining, what's your eligibility and enrollment. Let's look at some SPDs. Let's determine if they are actually how they are setting their procedures on the basis of how they need to run their company. What I also want you to think about in controlling cost is the time and attendance systems. As much as you might say here today, Steve, time and attendance systems, what am I talking to employers about this? You are, and here's why. The Affordable Care Act has required employers to monitor their variable hour employees. Of course, an employer can save money with a time and attendance system because it can more adequately manage when someone is going to get paid, when they clock in, when they clock out, so on and so forth. There's no more this buddy punching that goes on with employers, those that have time and attendance systems. Also, you need to have a system that can adequately measure those variable hour employees to determine, based on hours worked, rate of pay, so on and so forth, whether those employees become eligible for coverage or not. And so, since you are the most trusted advisor for your clients in relation to ACA, time and attendance systems are your friend because they help you to be able to better enable an employer to control those particular factors that they're dealing with. Employers are adopting time and attendance systems at a very rapid pace, and very much due to what ACA has imposed. You now need to take hold of that, understand how those systems help, and how they can help you determine eligibility so that you can properly enroll people or actually term them from the plans on a timely basis. The next key trend is creating efficiencies. As you look at this key challenge has really surfaced by a key organization out on the West Coast, and they have disrupted the market and has opened up many of our eyes, your eyes, into see that employers want more than just benefits, that they are really faced with a lot of key challenges, and they must become more efficient so that they are able to drive more revenue. So let's look at the common challenges, right? So let's go through this process here. Employers' challenges come from, at least when we think of benefit world, right, is that annual health plan decision discussion. Okay, what plan am I offering this year? How am I getting it to my employees? Are we going to try to do some kind of a online enrollment tool or system this year? How am I going to get the elections from my employees or the waivers from my employees, and then how am I going to get it to the next stop, in this equation, right? And so you guys have sat through plenty of these meetings, right? So that annual health plan decision discussion is a huge challenge for employers. And one, two, is just getting them to understand maybe some of the options or opportunities that they would have to create more efficiencies in this area. The Affordable Care Act, if I could, as a hot topic right now, is the ACA reporting obligation. This is huge. Okay, right? As you read article upon article, it's talking about employers dealing with not creating the actual forms. That's kind of the easy part. It's accumulating the data. It's where is all this data coming from? And once I've accumulated it, is it the right data? Is what I have received as far as my hours worked and rate of pay, I mean, is that what I need? Do I count all of that for ACA purposes? What if I'm using the rate of pay safe harbor? What do the hours worked in a given month mean, right? Or if I'm using the W-2 safe harbor. So it's the data component. It's the efficiency of where is all that data sitting. All these from ACA reporting obligations has created a huge inefficient kind of backlog and burden on our employers. The next I've put kind of together these three: benefit eligibility and enrollment, status changes, life events, timing of tasks. As you know, these are huge efficiencies in an organization, determining when an employee is eligible for benefits, when they need enrollment. Maybe there is a life event that has occurred and you've got 30 days or 60 days, depending on maybe the life event, to make that appropriate change. So those timing of tasks, I'm thinking as I put it there, is COBRA. When an employee gets termed and that employer failed to mention to you that that employee was termed and they're still on the plan. And 4 months go by and that employer has continued to pay that premium. So you've got cost involved there, but you just have the huge inefficiency of an employer dealing with all of these really day-to-day kind of decisions that they need to be acting on. And again, when you're working with a smaller employer that does not have an HR generalist or a specialist, designation, who's determining this? A lot of times it's coming to you to help. Another item is the duplication, right? You guys could probably give me, I don't know how many stories of a client who has not only the filing cabinet, they've got the Excel worksheet, they might have an HR, maybe an online enrollment tool, maybe a simplified HR tool, maybe they have, they have the carrier portal, they have their other vendor portals that they need to add or subtract things from. And so you just think about the entry, the duplication of data that is being managed and maintained and administered right now with your employers. Huge inefficiencies in this area. And what does that cause? Errors, right? The more manual it is, the more errors that it's going to come. And lastly, and I know you all have dealt with it, we deal with it as well, these are lean years for employers. Lean in regard to, staff and maybe certain departments that will be much more, have much more limited resources. It's just more sparse. You're not getting the help that you need, and they just don't have the time to put into it. And so that creates a lot of inefficiencies with the limited resources that they may have. In the kind of the annual technology survey that came out from Employee Benefit News, I thought this was a very nice survey, had just a couple key things that I wanted to mention, is that 38% of employers surveyed actually said they expect to increase their spending on employee benefits technology. 44% had actually already increased their spending in 2015. So think about it from you as an agency. What have you been promoting? What have you been talking about? That organization out on the West Coast has shown that employers want to adopt technology, that they need that specific resource. So as we think about some standard solutions, I put this more right up there on the board here for us to look at. So as you think about as your agency, what you deliver to your clients, some of the standard solutions that we hear from all of our partners, as well, we can better streamline the annual health plan decision process, right? I mean, maybe as an agency, you deliver a simple online enrollment tool. It's not really tied to anything or integrated to anything, but hey, we can kind of streamline this, not only the decision about the health plan that we're choosing, but also the process with which, to get those employees enrolled, as they become eligible, and open enrollment periods and so forth. So better streamline that process. You know what? Many of you have said, I'm providing just full support for ACA. I am taking that over. I am handling it. And that's good because, as you take that on, you are the key advisor in the ACA discussion, not CPAs, not accountants. It's you. And so employers are depending on you. But with that comes some liabilities, right? With that dependency comes, you have error and omissions insurance, right? There's some liability that could exist. And that exists as well for becoming the HR consultant. Several of you have decided, you know what, I am going to be the HR consultant for my clients. But at the bottom line, what we have seen as a solution from many agencies is to increase your involvement between the client, the carrier, say the benefits and the client, okay? And so you're taking on a little more administrative tasks. You are definitely increasing your involvement. And that's not a bad thing, but that's a standard thing. That's what many agencies are doing. And so as you think about strategic thinking, I want you to think about how your agency could partner or own, right, an HR benefit system. I don't know if anyone reads a blog from Joe Markland. He's from HR Technology, been around a long time. He writes some very interesting things. And, his recent blog posts over the last couple months have been really spot on in regard to where you, the broker, kind of the must-haves for you as an agency. And he goes on and he says, as an agency, if you're not partnering or kind of owning an HR benefit system, you are going to get left behind because those competitors, those strategic thinkers are coming in and driving a technology platform to create more efficiencies. Joe Markland even goes on from there to say that if you are partnering or owning an HR and benefit system that is without payroll, you haven't gone far enough. As I think about PrimePay, and we've begun to roll out our private health insurance exchange, and as we have gone to carriers to drive discussions with them about adding their products and offerings onto our exchange, the reason that they are giving us the look, that they are excited about our partnership, is because of payroll. It's because that payroll is integrated with that platform. And so what you as an agency, as you strategically think about how you're going to focus on this key trend, key challenge for employers in creating efficiencies, you need to you can own or you can partner, right, with an HR and benefit system, but really focus on that payroll component. Because with that payroll then comes in the time and attendance systems, because you've got integration or scheduling software, and certainly ACA. When you think about the ACA reporting obligation alone, that has to do with coverage. It has to do with probably 2/3 of all the information. Almost 75% of the data is coming from payroll. So if you're partnering with a vendor in which you have greater transparency and accessibility to that information, you will make a solid impact, a solid foundation with that client to create more efficiencies for them that they truly, truly need. Even outside of the payroll, outside of the HR and benefit technology platform, you also want to engage your clients about their specific payroll process, vendor, offering. Understand their solution. What is the employer purchasing, utilizing from that payroll source? One of the things that you need to ask, kind of put in your regular repertoire of questions, is to get the payroll ad term reports, or the new hire reports, new hire and termination reports. Most times, the employer is going to terminate an employee in payroll first, right? They don't want to pay him anymore. So they're going to be termed there. Well, what if you had access to those reports? Let me tell you, you can have access to those reports, and it would have a greater opportunity for you to create greater efficiencies for that client. Also consider a private health exchange. Now we've not rolled that out nationwide. We have that in several states here right now, but certainly not all over the place. But have you considered a private health exchange? Have you considered that that's going to greatly reduce, should greatly reduce that annual health plan decision that an employer has to make in picking that one medical plan that's going to be great for everybody, whereas going into an exchange that actually has so many more options, so much greater flexibility, and it's potentially integrated not only to the carriers, which it would be, but also to payroll, to benefit administration services, other vendors, miscellaneous carriers, whatever it may be. You have a greater efficient platform, but also one that's helping to showcase those benefit offerings to the employees while also helping to reduce cost for the employer. The last item here in creating efficiencies is really seeing that as you create as you drive and implement HR and benefit technology platforms with these employers, what that will do is enable you to magnify or really drive voluntary product processes better, more easily to those employees. And guess what that's going to do? It's also going to help increase and magnify your sales effort. So the whole role here is to not only be able to manage these specific trends and challenges for employers, but ultimately, right, if you're showing more value, you're going to sell more, which is going to increase your revenue, so on and so forth. So it's a win-win. The third item here, key trend, is in mitigating compliance risk. Now, again, this is very much a no-duh when you think about it, but I want you to think about it how you see it when a client talks about compliance. It is, you go right towards the benefits, right? I mean, compliance risk. You might go as far as HIPAA and ERISA and some Department of Labor and COBRA. You might go in some of those areas, but there are so many other forms of risk that are out there that employers are getting hit with. So some major challenges for employers in this area, I put it down as known versus unknown. I mean, a client doesn't know what they don't know, right? They don't know how to react. They don't know, there's some naivete in regard to just knowing exactly what their obligations are for a particular piece of compliance, and they certainly know a lot of the basics, and some may know a whole lot more, but a lot of times what you're faced with is introducing a compliance risk for the first time to an employer. Many employers are now being faced with the risk. It's always been there, but now that ACA is targeting it, is ERISA and documentation for health and welfare benefit plans. Employers aren't ready. 3/4 of employers aren't prepared. So it's a huge challenge for you to be able to drive some of that information as far as what they know and don't know. A big area for compliance risk, and I don't have to belabor this issue, is ACA. Clearly, over the last year, and certainly prior, this has created an enormous amount of risk that an employer needs to continue to maintain to ensure that they are fulfilling their obligation throughout. The kind of the three that I've locked together is documentation, eligibility and enrollment, and policies and procedures. As I've looked at current trends for 2016, I've mentioned to you in the past that at PrimePay, we have seen about and this is in the past, we'll need to get this updated here for the current year, but we have seen about a 300% increase in the amount of audits of our clients in regard to benefits, in regard to health and welfare benefits specifically, but also Section 105 plans, Section 125 plans, etc. Documentation, eligibility and enrollment, policies and procedures are some of the key areas that employers are going to be targeted in regard to audits. And I would say for most, these three areas are spotty at best. And you as a benefits broker are going to need to be challenged with really diving into these specific pieces because you can truly help your employer kind of navigate through that compliance risk by taking a deep dive and review of these particular items. Excessive benefit cost. I mean, the Cadillac tax has now been delayed, here just a couple years, which is nice. But it is 2016, and the original deadline was 2018, and look how fast that crept up to that deadline. And so what I'm saying is 2020 is going to be coming very quickly, and so they need to be concerned with where their current health plan status is in regard to that excessive benefit cost. COBRA, HIPAA, ERISA, there are many compliance risks. Actually, COBRA, HIPAA, and ERISA have shown that the lawsuits that are ensued due to lack of documentation, lack of a general notice, can be pretty severe. And so you are sitting at the center of being able to really discuss that specific challenge with your employers. But I also want you to consider that payroll side as well. One of the number or top reasons that employers choose to outsource their payroll services is because of tax filing, is because of the uncertainty of who needs to get paid this tax and when does it need to be paid. And let's guarantee it. Let's make sure that it is done on a timely basis. You need to have that open conversation, dialogue with your employers, talking about some of the other risks, OSHA to certainly others. Maybe there's certifications and training and things like that you could help and assist and drive because they are challenged in dealing with that compliance risk. One of the additional quotes that I thought was great, again, in that same article of employer strategies, the 2016 ABCs of employee benefits, they talked here a little bit about compliance, and they said this: between the ACA reporting requirements, which includes W-2 cost of benefits, IRS reporting, and the payment of new fees, the PCORI fee and the transitional reinsurance fee, the federal government's magnifying glass over your benefits program has increased significantly, thus increasing its exposure to an audit. It is with 100% certainty that the IRS, Department of Labor, have increased their efforts to audits. They are expanding that look. So clearly the IRS or Department of Labor might kind of target a specific item at first. But let me tell you, quite quickly, it's going to increase that exposure in an audit to many other facets. And so whereas maybe you as a benefits broker have targeted a specific area with your clients, you're going to want to greatly expand that offering. If you're a broker concierge partner of ours, we have provided or you have access to checklists, compliance checklists, benefit checklists, ACA checklists, ERISA, COBRA. We've got a lot of different checklists that you could use that could be your guide to help determine what specific compliance items that your clients might be at most risk for. So let's look at the standard solutions that you might already be doing, right? I mean, you might have automatically said, well, listen, yes, we meet annually, we meet quarterly, semi-annually to discuss this compliance needs with our clients. You know what? That's an excellent step. You've got to do it. I think the majority of folks here on the call today do that. Many of you might have taken a step, and it's a big financial step, to hire an in-house compliance specialist or an attorney that's really going to drive education and content and answers to questions for clients. Again, I put there, that's kind of a rough road ahead because, there's some just unknown about liability and what have you, in doing that. But many of you have been successful in really bringing that in-house because you saw that need. You went to where the puck was going and you said, you know what, we need to be stronger here from a compliance basis, and you moved in that direction. What we've also seen as a standard solution is that many of you have aligned yourself with several outside resources, from attorneys to HR, technology vendors, payroll, ACA. I mean, you run the gamut, and that's not a bad thing. There are people that do excellent COBRA, and that's all they do. That's where their focus is. Fantastic. There's others that are just strong in technology or strong in HR. That's their niche. That's their expertise. That's not a bad thing, but there is a rough road ahead there because in dealing with so many different partners, ultimately that partner, your client, what they see is your recommendation is that partner, and so they have to be the best, right? PrimePay, we here at PrimePay deal with that constantly. We have to deliver utmost superior service and a solution because we reflect you. Right, and so in aligning your agency with several outside resources, it is tough. It's tough to be able to partner with so many. So let's think about strategic thinking, and I want to say proceed with some confidence here in this regard to compliance risk. As I stated before, as a benefits broker, you are the trusted advisor for your clients in regard to ACA. There is no other. There is absolutely no other, which puts you in a most welcome opportunity for you to own ACA for your clients. You need to own it. You need to understand where that data is coming from so that you can assist your employers in moving to the right places to gather that information for their specific obligations. But you own it. You have to own it. I've talked to many benefits brokers that have said, well, you know what, I do help a little bit, but I'm staying out of payroll. I'm staying out of, this way. I don't want to move in that direction. What I would say is you need to dive in. The strategic thinkers are in, and you need to own ACA for your clients. Another key area here, and I'm just putting it in kind of 3 areas here, is you've got to continually think, as you think about compliance risk, you need to expand your thought process there and expand your agency's approach to compliance. Do that beyond benefits. Think about how your agency can actually drive additional clarification and resources for your clients in other compliance areas. I talked about there's things like identity theft that you could certainly get into from a compliance standpoint, but I talked about OSHA, certification training, things like that. How could your agency be able to deliver greater resources for your employers in regard to in beyond benefit in that world? Cultivate stronger partnerships. Get your partner. We greatly admire and respect those brokers who have partnered with PrimePay, and we so appreciate the business and the trust that you have put in us. Well, we need to cultivate a stronger partnership, which would enable you to create greater dependency of that client on you. Greater dependency equals value. They have valued what you are providing. So you do need, in thinking about compliance and in speaking about the kind of expanding beyond benefits, you do need to furnish more complete or comprehensive compliance solutions. Don't just look at an employee handbook, talk about eligibility and enrollment, what their procedures are. Dig into their handbook. Dig into their documentation for Section 125, for 105, in their self-funding SPDs. Look at their SBCs. Ensure that they're following the proper procedures. In a research note that I looked at here recently in regard to ERISA and upcoming audits, there's a lot of focus on documentation and procedures. Let's make sure that you're furnishing a complete or comprehensive compliance solution for your clients. One of the last things that at least we'll mention here, strategic thinking. I will say that some benefit brokers have gotten into doors with clients by talking about these specific items, but it's employee classifications, believe it or not. There's a huge focus from an IRS perspective in regard to employee classifications. Not just, well, should I name this employee a variable hour employee, part-time, seasonal, so on and so forth. No. It goes even as far as, is this literally an employee, or is this a 1099 employee? And classifying that correctly. You can get involved because not only does it affect ACA, right? The classification is really important in regard to measuring and monitoring variable hour employees. You need to ensure that your employers are actually classifying them, correctly. But dig into the root of the data for each client of what payroll provides. Payroll provides so much. The deduction information that is shown through payroll tells you what type of benefits are being offered, what they're paying. So if you're looking at it on a prospective client basis, you can reap so much information from that particular payroll data. So as you think about your DNA is really good, right? You guys have great DNA when it comes to benefits and in providing benefit offerings, benefit solutions, benefit recommendations to your clients. And what I want you to think about here is taking that great foundational DNA, and I wasn't great in biology, but okay, that's a molecule there. You need to expand. You've got to grow. You've got to take that DNA and just get those molecules expand, build on that, grow, expand beyond so much that traditional benefit discussion. But you got to be prepared. So these three areas here, are they just groundbreaking? Well, I'd like to say yes, but they signify what employers are telling PrimePay. They signify what employers are telling you, the broker. And we can see that by the disruptors in the market and what employers are ultimately buying. So in controlling cost, the main message that you need to take from that is expanding your discussion beyond benefits and truly have a business conversation that will take it about controlling cost on the benefit side to controlling business cost. And you're sitting in a wonderful position to be able to do that. The efficiencies, what technology can bring is tremendous, but as far as creating efficiencies for clients where they get the greatest kind of bang for the buck, in which they have sparse and limited resources that they need technology to be able to drive better benefit administration efficiencies, payroll, and just business administration. So align your agency with an HR benefit and payroll integrated technology platform. And then lastly here, you will sit in on a high platform winning the prize if you're able to mitigate a tremendous amount of the compliance risk that your employers face. So furnish comprehensive compliance solutions which will create greater dependency on your agency, which is again driving that value that is very important to the employers. As I wrap up today, I want to cover just 4 key legislative updates. As I stated here at the beginning of the webcast, usually the last 2 to 3 weeks of the year, there's a flurry of activity, and we would be remiss to just kind of let those go. So I'm going to just talk to these 4 very quickly, but provide some just tight information here for you that hopefully, again, you can take immediately to your clients. The first item that I want to show is the IRS extension that was granted for ACA reporting. So the key date now for an employer for the Forms 1095, the due date for distribution is March 31st, 2016. So originally that was February 1st. It is now March 31st. So they either need to deliver it, or if they're mailing it, they have to postmark those forms by March 31st. Now, the IRS has continued to say, listen, there's still penalties for non-compliance. That still exists, but they continue to reiterate that employers, as long as they're working on a good faith effort to comply, there's not going to be a penalty given. But the IRS did notice that the data accumulation component of this obligation was a huge mountain to climb for many employers, and that's why they moved these dates out. So we're very grateful for that. It does provide some additional time. An employer could provide the form sooner, clearly, but March 31st is the new deadline. The filing deadlines were also extended by roughly 2 months. So if an employer is filing the returns manually, that would be done by May 31st. And then if they're filing electronically, it would be by June 30th, 2016. One important note, though, that I do want to share with you is that what the IRS also stated is that although these extensions are granted for the employer, as an individual, they can still file their return. They're still required to file on a timely basis and file information that would correspond to what the employer is offering to that individual. And so as you see there in my note, it says employees will need some form of documentation from the employer in order to file their individual returns prior to receiving the official Form 1095 from the employer. So think about, how you file your taxes. Do you file your taxes by April 15th? Maybe. Or do you do it February 1st? Many individuals like to file early, and it might be sooner than the employer providing Form 1095 to them. So as a client of PrimePay, if you have clients that are utilizing our ACA reporting solution, our ACA Compliance Navigator solution, we have provided a template, that piece of documentation that employers may use, so we are providing that to our employers. The Cadillac Tax. At first, this is welcome news, the Cadillac Tax delay, but clearly I was actually in that car going off the cliff there before, just due to this whole excise tax thing. But the effective date has been delayed until 2020, which is nice. So a 2-year extension has been granted. So this has not been removed at all. It's just been delayed. But one of the things that they did mention within the notice was that the tax is now deductible. Okay, whereas before this tax was a non-deductible expense to the business. Okay, so what I also want to mention is this delay, that's great, but there's still action that can be taken by you and your clients. And so I'd be remiss to say, hey, there are a couple key organizations that have been critical to helping in this delay. And so make your voice heard. Go to NAHU, the National Association of Health Underwriters. Utilize their Operation Shout kind of program to be able to talk with your legislators. They make it very easy for you to send a note to your legislators about the Cadillac tax. ECFC, which is the Employers Council on Flexible Compensation, is a group that is specifically targeted to protecting and assisting employers with flexible spending plans, health reimbursement arrangements, health savings accounts, COBRA, Section 125 plans. And so they have actually created a website called mymoneymyhealth.org, which I'd recommend you go to. And again, it creates an easy way for you to access your legislators and be able to send a note specific about the Cadillac tax. HRAs and individual policies. As it was first stated back in September of 2013, basically it stated at that time that HRAs, or otherwise a new term called an employer payment plan, would no longer be eligible to reimburse individual medical premiums. And they talked about this key ingredient, to an HRA or to a cafeteria plan, Section 125 or Section 105, that, basically, as long as an HRA is integrated with a group health plan that is compliant with ACA, that, an HRA can reimburse deductibles, coinsurance, qualified medical expenses. So generally speaking, that is the key ingredient to really allowing an HRA to be a permissible plan to actually conform under the health reform requirements. What this notice also came out and stated is that it basically affirmed that a retiree-only HRA is pretty much the only way to purchase individual coverage from a tax-favored basis. Okay, so retiree only is, you have a retiree of an organization. It's one individual. And that one individual, an employer, could establish an HRA for that retiree to pay for individual medical premiums. And so that is still eligible. So they affirmed that aspect. They also confirmed that HRAs that reimburse accepted benefits are still permissible. So those would be examples like dental, vision, limited medical products, and so forth. And it also confirmed that cafeteria plans cannot pre-tax or reimburse individual policies. So your employer group should not be utilizing a premium-only plan or a cafeteria plan in any kind of pre-tax way for reimbursement of individual policies. Okay. The last legislative item that I want to go through is the transit and parking parity was reinstated, and this is very welcome news because it made it permanent. And this came out of the Protecting Americans from Tax Hikes Act of 2015. I'll go by PASS next time. Love these names of these acts. But the PASS Act had come into law and basically allowed transit to be in parity with parking, and it is now permanent. And so in 2016, what that means is that an employee can select now pre-tax transit and or van pool expenses, but transit expenses, that now goes to $255 per month. Previously, that was at $130 a month. So you can see that that's a big deal. I mean, that's a huge increase in opportunity here for individuals to save money. Qualified parking expenses, that did increase due to cost of living to $255. So there's now parity between the transit and the parking. There was also, as part of that act, a retroactive increase, and this was a little more difficult to come by because this act came out at the very end of the year. They have provided some additional language in a recent notice, 2016-4, I think. I have to look at that again. That kind of helps employers determine how to reclassify these deductions for 2015. But if you had an employee who utilized post-tax deductions above and beyond the $130 a month that were pre-tax last year, they could actually turn those post-tax deductions into pre-tax. So it was called a retroactive increase. Okay, so again, that would only be done up to $250 a month, which was the limit for last year. So one thing I want you to, just stay reminded is that, more cities are requiring these plans. Some examples right now are New York City, District of Columbia, San Francisco. There's several others that they require employers to have transit plans. So what I would just say is, definitely get engaged with your employers about these particular items. If you have clients, certainly in any one of those cities below, you absolutely will want to engage them on how they are managing this specific obligation. And keep in mind that the employees not only save that pre-tax, but also the employer is saving on that FICA tax, which generally will pay for the cost of the plan. Literally, transit plans can be established with no cost, to an employer, just due to those savings. I hope those legislative updates were very helpful to you. I did breeze through those pretty quickly, but did, I think, really covered the meat of, what those changes were about. I do want to introduce part of our future webinars that are as far as upcoming events that we have. February 10th will be our next webinar release, and we, as I had stated earlier, we're going to focus in on these key trends. So the next trend will be on creating efficiencies, so really focused on that aspect. And we're going to take a dive into technology ideas. We're going to segment this according to size, from 1 to 10, 11 to 49, 50 plus. I mean, we're going to talk about how technology can impact and create efficiencies. And then on March 2nd, we're going to focus on our theme, controlling cost, and really focus in on an HRA roadmap, something that you can take immediately to your clients and drive some strong cost-saving strategies. And then what we're really excited about is promotions. We don't get to do it enough, maybe as much as we can. And beginning in February, we are bringing a couple promotions back to you. Our PrimePay It Forward promotion was hugely successful, and this is a BC, our Broker Concierge Partner exclusive, where you're going to have an opportunity to be able to deliver savings directly to the employer, client, or even keep it. It's awesome. Pay it forward, right? We love that, and PrimePay It Forward is back. That will start in February. And for everyone then, even our non-broker concierge partners, there will be a special payroll promotion just for you, just for your agency. We want you to get to know PrimePay. And so we're going to have a special promotion there for you, yourself, to get to know us just a little bit more. So I can't thank you enough for attending here today. I know I did go a little long. I apologize for that. As part of follow-up for today's webinar, if you are a broker concierge partner, we will be delivering 3 items to you here afterwards, and it will be posted into the broker concierge portal, okay, into the community portal that we have for you. And that is a brand new parking and transit informational brief. You're going to love that content. We've also updated the ACA reporting requirement matrix, which with all the new deadlines. We've also updated our Cadillac Tax informational brief. That has been updated as well. So look for information there. If you are not a broker concierge partner, we would love to hear from you. We would love to share how we are driving some ideas, solutions, some value to you as your agency. And we'd love to hear from you. So please feel free to visit our website there, as we have it listed there below. You can certainly reach out to us by email, certainly by phone. We would love to hear from you. So with that will conclude our webinar. Look for the posting of the recording here on our Broker Concierge YouTube channel, at least over the next day or two. And but otherwise, have a great day. Happy New Year. And we look forward to working with you in 2016.